Thank you, Lisa, and it's good to be back at a Rotary function. Last time I was here was in 2020, but before that I was here in 2014. And so before leaving the office, I printed those two speeches that I had written in 2014 and 2020. And the 2014 speech was on the 12th of June, and that was before the 2014 election, and I had become the leader of the National Federation Party in March 2014. And I just wanted to begin by quoting what I said in June 2014. And I said, "It is my hope and expectation that with clarity about how we must travel and a shared commitment to get there, we will reach a quality and a standard of living that is equal, if not better, to that of New Zealand by 2030. This is not my dream, this is a reality within our grasp. Fiji 2030 will be a free nation, absolutely confident in its diversity, celebrating it, and from it reaping the benefits of our growth. Our hospitals, our schools, our incomes from comparable jobs will be par with New Zealand." Unquote. This is what I said in 2014. And then, when I did become a real politician in 2014, I had another opportunity to speak to the Rotary audience in 2020. And I just want to quote one part of that speech that I gave in 2020. And I said, "Why do business people need politicians? It is not to tell you about how to make sales or cut costs. It is not to tell you how to comply with laws or how to run your affairs. Of course, I know one politician who will lecture you on everything and anything, but he will not be our problem for much longer. But business does need politicians to deliver good political leadership. And good political leadership means good government. It means consultative lawmaking. It means accountable spending of the taxes that in large part businesses deliver to government." And I don't want to go any further, but I was thinking when I got the invitation, when Lisa called me, and I said, well, I went there twice when I was in opposition. I have to go there when I'm in government. And I also said to myself that when you are in government, you can quickly also get back to opposition. Politicians' life can be very temporary, whether you are in opposition or in government. I wanted to today just keep on that theme of where Fiji ought to be. And in 2014, I said that if we want to get to where we should in 2030, we can't do that by just assuming business as usual. So when we got into government, we were very clear about the style of governance, because it's very important to talk about style of governance. And the Prime Minister and all of us in government took the view that we need to work in a consultative manner with all our stakeholders outside of government. Because we believe that government alone cannot do everything that has to happen in the country. And therefore engaging broadly and in a very qualitative manner with our stakeholders, with our development partners, in the spirit of democracy, respect for human rights, media freedom, and on the basis of transparency and accountability of what the government does. And I must say that we are very pleased with what we have done in the last 18 to 20 months. You may not agree with everything that has happened in terms of policy, even in terms of the style of governance. But one thing we all have to agree, that there is now a country which is free from fear, intimidation, where media is free to report and ask questions, where people are free without any fear of intimidation to speak about government policies, criticize government in a way that they feel is appropriate. And I think all that is feeding into a sense of confidence and, should I say, a sense of exuberance in what people want to do. So we started by making sure that there is increased transparency in policy making and in our budget processes. So we started by having a National Economic Summit. We made sure that there was budget transparency, that it was not going to be a secret about what government wanted to do. And so we foreshadowed a lot of the policies that we put out in the last budget and in this budget, and we listened to the different sectors, groups, and took on board their views. And we made sure that there was debate about policies. So Fiscal Review Committee coming out and putting the report to the public, to the opposition, to the media, so that they are able to go through that report, criticize that, agree or disagree, and that helped the government refine its policies in the budget. Thirdly, we took the view that we have to think long term. And we don't assume that we will be in government forever or all the time. And so, with that in mind, we are putting in policies in our budget, in our National Development Plan, which will be launched next week by the Honorable Prime Minister, a foundation for a sustained, long-term economic growth in the country, which will lead to better prosperity. So coming out of COVID and the policies of the past, in the first budget, we set out to consolidate our finances. We moved away from populist policy agenda to some real financial prudent management of our finances in terms of our expenditure, our revenue. And the fruits of those decisions in 2023-2024 budget followed on into 2024 and 2025 budget has seen our deficit reduced from about 7% to 4% expected in July 2025. Our debt to GDP ratio in July 2022 was about 90%. We have managed to bring the debt to GDP ratio down to expected 77.8% in July 2025, which stands at 78% now. The revenue measures that we put in last year and this year, we have managed to create a very stable revenue situation for government. For the first time, and this is history for Fiji, our 2023-2024 tax collection was recorded at 3.1 billion, exceeding the forecast, and again that's very important, exceeding the forecast by 68 million, 2.3%, and breaking the $3 billion mark for the first time in Fiji's history. We are looking at how we can continue with some of these policies, because when governments are funded properly, when governments project their expenditure and revenue and debt and deficit close to what is achieved, it gives confidence to people like yourselves, to our international partners, to our donors, that we are setting the country forward in a sustainable, in a consistent, and a determined manner. And I can tell you that we feel very happy with the two budgets that we presented. And since the last budget, I have seen, and in our discussions with the business community, our NGOs, non-governmental organizations, development partners, that we have for the first time returned to this country a level of confidence that was not there for many, many years. The expectation last year was that tourism numbers will go down, that the economy will grow at less than 3%, and we forecasted a growth of 2.8%. But contrary to the expectations of some of the commentators and banks, our tourism numbers have reached a historic high. 894,389 tourists in 2019. And in 2023, in 2023, there was a phenomenal growth in the tourism numbers. The economy grew by 7.5% in 2023. In 2024, we had provided a very conservative projection of 2.8%. But now we are going to revise that growth forecast to more than 3%. And this itself is showing that government policy and government's approach in formulating policies and the budget is providing more confidence to our people and to our investors. And let me just give you some examples. The environment for investors is very conducive. We've undertaken a number of reforms, whether it's to do with investment facilitation, whether it's to do with immigration, and a lot of these reforms are being driven much more determined way because we are involving people from the private sector. We are inviting them to sit on committees, and we're getting them to tell us in government, how government can do things better. So there are a number of investment projects in different stages. And I'll give you some examples. 49 projects valued at 716 million has commenced. Some of them are completed and have started trading, which were facilitated by Investment Fiji between August 2023 and April 2024. 39 projects valued at 1.3 billion is under construction. 22 projects valued at 1.5 billion is at pre-development stage or in the approval process. And 27 projects valued at 2.3 billion is at conceptual stages. 52 projects valued at 3.5 billion is classified as foreign direct investment, while 85 projects valued at 2.2 billion are domestic direct investments. And these figures show very clearly that there is now a sense of confidence, a sense of urgency on the part of the investors and potential investors who see Fiji as an ideal destination for that kind of investment. I can also tell you that Vanua level and regional development, which was kind of neglected, has picked up in a very strong way. There are a number of projects, and I can list about 10 different companies who have in the last 18 to 20 months invested in Vanua level. We have a World Bank project for the next 10 years worth about 400 million Fijian dollars, and that includes infrastructure as well as other supporting activities that will significantly boost the economy in Vanua level. So these are just some examples of the results of government's very clear policy, confidence building measures, as well as making sure that our policies are formulated in a transparent and in a consultative manner. There are two things I want to say going forward. If we have ambitions of becoming a rich country in the next 25 to 30 years, then business as usual will not do. If you look at the growth trajectory of the 70s and the 80s, and look at what has happened in the last 30 years, it has more or less been like business as usual, where our growth trajectory has remained below 5%, between 3 to 4% at the most. And Our national development plan, as I said, which will be launched on Tuesday by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we'll be giving you more details as to what our vision is. But all we are saying is we have the potential to become a rich country in the next 25 to 30 years, but we cannot do this if we continue with business as usual. That means ensuring that we have political stability, that we have consistency of policy, that we have a very consultative, transparent and accountable approach in our governance and our policy making, and to provide an environment that is conducive for people to innovate, to engage in entrepreneurship, to be able to deal with the government in an open and a transparent manner. And that would be moving away from business as usual. We need a growth rate of between 4 to 5% in a consistent way if we are to reach a status of a rich country. This government, and I say this, this is the third time I'm going to say this, that this is the first time in Fiji's 54-year history that a government has changed from one group to another that has lasted for more than a year. And it's a good signal. It's a very good signal, and it's a very good achievement for Fiji and for the region. And we are confident as a government that we will leave a legacy, no matter how long we are in government, a legacy of a culture, of a political culture, of a political leadership that will see this country change government from one group to another in a peaceful, in a transparent, and in an accountable manner. And that itself will drive this country to become a rich country in the next 25 to 30 years. Fiji, my friends, has all the ingredients. We are the hub of the Pacific, and in the last 18 months we've seen so much interest in Fiji from all our development partners, from investors, from people who want to come and visit Fiji, from our diaspora. Our remittances since 2022 has continued to rise. We're expecting about $1.3 billion in 2024, which is fueling spending, growth, business activity in our economy. And as a government, we have already made this policy change that people who are living, former Fiji citizens, their children, their grandchildren, even though they have taken another citizenship, if they want to come back, live here, work here, invest here, they don't need to get back their Fiji passport, they can come. That has already been decided by the government. We are making sure that we provide additional policy framework for our diaspora to come back, and we see a lot of interest in our people coming back, investing, providing their skills and experience that they have acquired in those countries over the years. So, Lisa, thank you very much once again. All I want to say in conclusion is that Fiji was a model for all the Pacific Island countries, model for development and growth in the 70s and 80s. Fiji is one of those 20 countries in the world, 20 most tourism development or dependent countries in the world. Fiji is one of them. While we want the tourism industry to grow, we are putting all the supportive policies, mechanisms. We are also determined to diversify our economy. We want to make sure that we adopt a very inclusive, diversified economic policy approach so that our growth in the midst of the adversities such as climate change, geopolitics, contestation within the Pacific, we are able to navigate through all those challenges with a clear set of policy, and our National Development Plan, which will be, again, as I said before, launched by the Prime Minister on Tuesday, a clear, determined, transparent pathway to make Fiji a rich country in the next 20 to 25 years.